Welcome to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. I'm Stuart Wellborn, a British author and former therapist, and each week I sit down with Wa-Na-Nee-Che, a spiritual elder from Turtle Island, to explore the deeper truths behind healing, ceremony, and connection to Source.
Well, tomorrow's the big day.
Why is that?
They're voting on whether or not to release the Epstein files.
Okay. I hear that he says that he wants them to now for some strange reason.
He's just trying to play politics. Maybe because they took his name out.
Can they do that?
Oh, yeah. The FBI member had the files. They can delete a lot of stuff.
All right. So now that they've all been cleaned up, he'll release them and it'll probably say Bill Clinton then, will it?
The only problem with that is that you have too many women that basically are witnesses.
Are there?
I said they got so many women.
No, I say, are there?
Yeah.
Are they willing to come forward?
Yeah. So hopefully a lot of people will be going to jail.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah. You're trying to get Prince Andrew to confess and to give information about Trump and him.
Are they?
Yeah.
Well, be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting tomorrow.
But that's only the vote, isn't it? When would the information come out?
Well, if they vote on it tomorrow, it'll come out basically Wednesday.
Oh, that quick?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Once they vote on it, they have to release it. And they've already been releasing parts of it already, so.
Yeah, because there's all those memes about him blowing Bubba or something.
Did you hear the latest about the Attorney General, though? And their speaker? They said there are a lot of Donald Trumps in the world, and they're talking about those Donald Trumps, not the president. And then they got pictures of them. Which Donald is this? Number one, number two, or number three?
Can't imagine there's that many Donald Trumps in the world.
I don't think there's hardly any. Who would want a name like that anyway? They'd probably change it.
I know, Trump Tower.
Yeah.
I just can't wait till one day there's going to be a USS Trump, and that
Yeah.
I would sign up to join the Navy again just so I could go and take the piss out of the sailors on it.
Uh-huh. You know, he wants his name for the commanders. They're building a new stadium, and he wants them to call it Trump Stadium.
Well, the thing is, there's going to be a Trump ballroom, isn't there, on the White House?
Then he wanted to change the Kennedy to Trump as well. So he wants to put his name on everything. One of the people running for Senate right now said if he got elected to the Senate, or if he even got elected as president, the first thing he would do is take all the gold that Trump has put into the White House, sell it, and use it to build affordable housing for the poor.
Who's that then?
I can't remember his name who's running it. But when I get back online, I've been sitting there getting just a little bit frustrated and a little bit upset when I turned on like Facebook or a couple of other places, and all I see is things that are being telecast about Native American Indians, the massacre of Native American Indians, the contributions of Native American Indians. And I get so frustrated because there is no such thing. Native American Indians is a psychological brain screw that they use to basically not identify the indigenous people. And people have to wake up. Even Native American Indians that classify themselves as Native American Indians have to basically learn that we can't be united until we become indigenous again. And all these people that are dressed up as Native American Indians, they got their war bonnets on, they have their leathers on, they have their feathers on, they have their dancing feathers on, and they say, we're Native American Indians. And they cannot become Native American Indians. How can you become something that doesn't exist? And it's a play on the brain, and they convince people that they're Native American Indians. And Native American people who identify as Native American need to wake up, and they need to start calling themselves who they are, Indigenous people. Because the world can't come together until you find something that the human race can belong to. And they can belong to the Indigenous people. Because Indigenous people basically, again, means people of the earth, real people of the earth. And once they could start to realize we can come together as a human race, we utilize psychological situations to get people to fight each other. In original stories, they always sit there, when you look at all these findings now, archaeology findings, they're starting to say, well, maybe they didn't come over on the Bering Strait. Maybe they came from Europe and not from Africa. But people are going to one day find out that the beginning of civilization began here on Turtle Island. They didn't migrate here, they left and went to other parts of the world. Now, when you look at society and the world, when you look at the Asians, when you look at the Anglos, when you look at Africa, they all became different type of races. The red race, white race, the Asian race, and the black race. But not one of them has the stories that goes back to the beginning of time that talks about the one race. The indigenous people talked about the one race, and they foretold that people would leave and then return, but when they returned, they would represent three different colors. Now, how the hell would they know that if they came from Europe, or if they came from Africa, or if they came from Asia? They wouldn't have that in their original stories, their original history. And that the thing that they told us to do was the sacred hoop. But the sacred hoop, the prophecy said that the sacred hoop was one color. And then it was split off into four colors. And it was the color red that was supposed to teach people to come back as human beings. And then within the center of the human circle of life is the sacred symbol that when they finally reach that point, there is no color. We are all the human race. And when we start to realize that, it's easy to go out and kill somebody because, oh, they're a member of the yellow race. They're a member of the white race. They're a member of the red race. They're a member of the black race. Because once they separate them, it's all right to kill them. And that's what they did with the indigenous people. They started calling them, Native Indians. But that allowed them to say, well, they're foreigners in their own country, so therefore we can kill them. We can steal their land. The whole history of the United States has been based on the annihilation of the indigenous people. And if you went and you start believing the spiritual rules and regulations of the indigenous people, they were killed too. They didn't have to be indigenous. They basically were killed because of their belief system. And they didn't want that belief system to get to the people because it meant peace. You can't steal a country, you can't steal land if there's peace. So they had to basically, again, invent a way that it was all right to go in and kill people, to take what is theirs. And that's still a philosophy of today that if you want something, you go take it. And you don't care who's in your way. You have the power, you have the army, you have the guns to take it. And I think that's, again, when you look at Russia and Ukraine, Russia, again, wanted all of Ukraine. So what does it do? It attacks Ukraine because of the land they held. Now, Trump basically wants to attack Venezuela. He wants to attack Nicaragua. But the whole idea when it comes down to it is the fact that he wants the oil. He wants the resources. So he's making all kinds of excuses to go in and take these countries over.
I was just saying that does seem to be like a history of that with America anyway, because the first Gulf War, going into Iraq, um, because of supposedly weapons of mass destruction that were never there, but plenty of oil.
They had slingshots that could launch grenades. That was their method.
I say it, whereas Putin, and all of these things, in my opinion, are wrong, but Putin's not really doing anything different in a way to what America's been doing for quite a while, and that's
Oh yeah.
if I don't know if you've seen Team America, but it's bringing freedom to the to every country that's got oil.
And we look at history even long before America. I mean,
Mm.
in China, you had different tribes. Well, the most powerful tribe under Genghis Khan started basically destroying the other tribes so that he had control and eventually became China. And then you had basically, you have the Israelites utilizing Gestapo type techniques to destroy Gaza. I mean, the land that Israel sits on was Palestinian. They originally were in Germany.
Well, humanity has got that history of doing it. Obviously, I live in a country that used to have an empire, the British Empire. There was the saying the sun never sets on the British Empire, but we've moved on from that, although we still get a lot of stick for it. There was the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, the Persian Empire, and Genghis Khan was Mongolian,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah. As long as we allow society, allow the world to be controlled by the mind, then we will never have peace. And that's what the reason is for people to understand their life force energy. And if they understand their life force energy, then they'll understand that the battle between good and evil is the heart and the mind. That the brain controls violence, the heart controls peace. And if they can't find peace within themselves, how are they going to basically extend peace to other people?
Well, that is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just want to come back to what you started off with was saying about there's no such thing as Native American Indian. That just to kind of put things straight for the audience that are listening or viewing,
Uh,
they are just words, aren't they? At the end of the day, we're talking about semantics in a sense that, um, for example, at one time, oh, I don't know if it was the 80s, you couldn't call a black person black, you had to call them colored. Then colored went out and black, and now it's person of color. And no doubt in 5 years' time, everything I've just said will be classed as racist, and there'll be another term. So what I'm saying is these are words that society has come up with to describe a person of a particular ethnic background. Why does it matter that people say Indigenous rather than saying Native American then?
well, it's like the whole idea. I had a real close friend, and we were discussing something, and he said, "You know, I'm black." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah. I thought you were human." And he kind of looked at me and he said, "That makes a lot of sense."
Yeah, that's why I'm saying changing from saying Native American or as it the more racist term, Red Indian, changing it to Indigenous is not the same as changing it to human, then, is it?
Well, the whole idea of changing it to indigenous means, number one, you can never become a Native American Indian. No matter how much you dress up in your outfits and everything, how much you do dances at powwows and everything like that, you can never become a Native American Indian because they don't exist. But you can become indigenous, which basically means a real person of the earth, so anybody can become indigenous.
But that's what I'm
So,
saying. It's just words to describe a person. So why does it matter whether you, I'm trying to get out of you, why does it matter whether you use Native American
well,
Indian or Indigenous? What's the real difference other than that Indigenous means
yeah.
person of the earth?
Well, indigenous again gives us a state of understanding that we have to come from our heart. Now, everybody in the world can come from their heart if they know how. But everything else is basically, again, a control. The Native American Indian is a words that control people. And the thing that you want to do is get rid of that control. And indigenous means that anybody can become a human being if they want to and they practice the old ways. But if they practice the way of the Native American Indians, then they can't find their pathway because they don't exist. So you have to have something that you can touch, you can feel, and you can be energized by. So again, the Native American Indian concept, again, they thought they were in India. They called them Indians. And then once the America was established, all of a sudden they became Native Americans. But that was basically, again, utilized to disempower them.
Well, I could be wrong on this, but I think before Native Americans, it was just Red Indian, wasn't it?
Yeah, because when they first came, the natives, the tribes were doing a dance, and they were dressed in red. But guess what the dance was?
On.
It was a Welsh pole dance.
Okay. I think you
So
mentioned
when
the Welsh
they seen
before.
them doing that, of course they said, "Well, they're red, so they belong now to the red race, the red people, red Indians."
Okay. I do have a couple of questions that have come in from Linda, if you fancy answering them.
Sure.
Hang on, I'm gonna have to pull them up. Because it does kind of tie in a little bit with the things you were just saying. Because you said that people didn't come from Africa. You're basically the indigenous people came from Turtle Island.
Uh-huh.
Um, I've not heard you talk about this, but she says you talk about life on other planets, and there are so many stars, galaxies, so many stars, so many planetary systems. The odds of there being life on other planets is, you know, almost certain, really, even if it's not, if it's more intelligent than us or less intelligent, there will be life in the universe. So, what's your take on life on other planets? Are these people the star people? But her question was, because you talk about life on other planets, do they pray to the creator as well?
Well, I probably have some kind of a system in which they have a supreme being. Don't it doesn't know, just like when we look at the world now, how many different names do we have for the supreme being?
Thousands.
So again, when the space people came in, and it's funny because when we look at the indigenous people, they had a thing called tobacco that was used for ceremonies. Now, to prove the fact that life actually began here, you go to each different parts of the world and you will find the DNA of tobacco. But tobacco only grew in North America. So my theory has always been that, yeah, the star people came and they taught us lessons on how to basically walk a pathway in which they honored all things and that they put love in their hearts. That was the original teaching. Now, whether or not that they became creator connected, it's just actually another story. But the fact is that I always feel that when they came to the earth, now, if they came, say, for instance, to find certain type of minerals, certain type of herbs, once they found the herbs as a gatherers, don't you think they left? So again, there would be no record of them. So when they finally decided to stay on the Earth and basically become part of Turtle Island, they were given certain rules and regulations to live by. So again, then they talk about, like Israel, let's say, they talk about the 12 tribes. The 12 tribes originated in Turtle Island, not in Israel, because our stories was that there were 12 tribes originally, 12 human tribes. Three went one direction, three went another direction, and three went the third direction. And that's when they say they left Turtle Island as one color, but they will return as three colors that they will represent. And it'll be the teachings of the indigenous people to teach them to be indigenous again. But rather than being taught, the American government seen him as a threat. So they started to kill him. They started to basically exterminate the indigenous people.
Well, there is the fact, I'm just saying, it wasn't just you people, your people, that have been persecuted for the older beliefs, because you got to think of the burning times in Europe when, um, witchcraft, people that followed the old pagan traditions, they were
Mm-hmm.
persecuted as well. And it's all been about greed, taking the land, taking the resources. So you're not alone in that context. I mean, your lot were massacred
Yeah.
by the millions, weren't they?
Well, they gave them a negative name, pagans, witches, and the whole idea they studied nature. They understood nature. They understood the herbs. So all of a sudden, they became a threat because of their philosophy. So wipe them out.
Yeah. So back to the alien bit then, I guess. The star people, do they inhabit another planet then?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we wouldn't be seeing all these spaceships flying around, here in the States and all over the world, where they're sighting, UFOs that are not of the Earth. They're from another place.
I'm playing devil's advocate here because I can neither confirm nor deny whether they do exist because I don't
I
know
noticed that.
100%. But
I noticed because you were growing little horns.
yes. Um, but there's never really, they've released files, haven't they? The United States have, the RAF have, and there are things that are certainly unidentified flying objects that they don't know what they are, but there's nothing that's been confirmed that really says, yes, it's definitely aliens that's been released. And nowadays with AI, it'd be hard to tell whether anything was real or not anyway.
Well, I don't like to call them aliens. I like to call them different forms of life force energies. And yes, they do exist. I have visited them. I've had I've had conversations with what they call UFOs with the people that came out of them.
Really?
Yep. And the people that I met were not the color black, but they were very dark brown. And we discussed the fact that they also have a queen that makes sure that they follow certain rules and regulations. And those regulations were passed on to indigenous people.
Now, you say you've had these conversations with them, then. Are you talking about in a vision or in like everyday reality?
And in reality,
All right.
I'm
And did
still
they not
waiting. I'm still waiting for him to come back.
and take you away?
They actually made a promise that when we were in dire need, they would return.
Some people might think you're mad talking about talking to aliens. How would you address that?
Well, everybody has their own belief system, right? And
Hmm.
everybody has the right to think what they think. And even if their thinking is wrong, they have the right to basically
Hmm.
have that type of feeling. The people
Well, you
who
know what you've
actually,
experienced, don't you? Whether you've had it or not. So,
yeah, I mean, I've had so many experiences that it's unbelievable. I know I was told in a vision that I was going to have a battle. And the battle that I was going to have was pure evil. And they said, you probably won't survive.
Oh dear.
And I sat there and I went and I laid down. And I used to belong to quite a few bowling clubs. And I was supposed to go bowling that night. And I went to lay down. And all of a sudden, the pain was unbearable. I had to get into a fetus position just to kind of ease the pain and sit there. And I had tears in my eyes. Then all of a sudden, this energy appeared and it went right inside of me. And all of a sudden, I've never felt so good in my life. It's like I was floating. And I got up and I said, huh, I'll go bowling. Because I felt very, real good. Well, while I was bowling, I was sitting there and I have never bowled like that before. I mean, my first game was at 276. My second game was at 280. And my last game was at 269. So it came close to having perfect games. But guess what? The whole time I was bowling, I was whistling a tune. And the tune was, my name is my name is Michael. I have a nickel. I have a nickel shiny and bright. And I couldn't understand why that tune would not get out of my head. So when I went home the next night, that's when the battle came. And I fought against this evil entity. And I sat there and I hit him with one hand and I hit him with the other hand with energy. And he went to his knees. He said, and the negative entity said, how can you defeat me? You're human. And I looked at him. I said, because you're fighting three people. He said, what do you mean? I said, Michael's here. He said, Michael. I said, Michael the Archangel. I said, and there was another one with him. So Michael had actually taken over my body. And I know a lot of people think I'm crazy, but he was there. I could feel the difference in my energy. And then I went after the vision, after the battle, I woke up and I went and I laid down again, and my body actually elevated off the bed. And I seen that energy leave my body. And I fell back into the bed. And I was back to me. So then I finally realized that I had been possessed by Michael in order to win the battle because they were after my mother. And by defeating him, they couldn't touch my mother. And my sister was in a coma. And the minute the battle was over, that later on that morning, I called a hospital, and they said, "I think Bernice is going to pass on." I said, "No, she's all right. She's completely out of the woods." And they said, "I don't think so." And they have to look. Well, here comes the doctor. We'll ask the doctor. The doctor came out and was shaking his head. "What's the matter, doctor? Is she gone?" "No, it's a miracle. The hemorrhaging stopped." So again, I was fighting for her soul, and I was fighting for my mother's soul.
So you didn't lose the battle then?
Pardon?
You said at the start of it that you wouldn't win the battle, but you did win it then.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what just came up for me then. You mentioned Archangel Michael then, which is, Old Testament and Christian and all that kind of Abrahamic. Where does that fit into your indigenous philosophy then, archangels?
Well, it didn't because number one, you got to remember, I was raised a Catholic. I was an I was an altar boy, so I was basically my mind was controlled, believed that there were archangels, Michael, Gabriel, whatever. But then I found out that they weren't really angels; they're supreme beings. They're universal energies.
Yeah, so the net mate Michael's just the name that you give to it, but what actually is it then? What is an archangel?
No such thing. That only exists in the religious beliefs, but not in the indigenous people. The indigenous people basically believed in the life force energies, the energies, and the universal energies, and the creator. So the universal energies are explained by the indigenous people as being energies that have never been born on the earth.
And is that what possessed you then?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't Michael the Archangel. It's just that that's the way I believed being
Yeah,
brought up.
yeah,
That all of a sudden I gave the name Michael and the Archangel. But what it was a supreme being that basically entered into my body.
So where do they? Yeah, this is probably the wrong way to ask it, but where do they hang out then? Are they on a planet, or are they just everywhere in the universe, or what?
When I went up, and I always expected to see a person.
Hmm.
And so when I went up and I went to the source of the power, and I went up on a white buffalo, and I wanted to get off, but the white buffalo said, "You can't get off because you're glued to me. You're part of me. So there's no way you can get off. I know you want to stay, but it's not your time." And then when I heard a voice come out of nowhere, and I looked around, there was nobody there, but there's the voice. Then I finally realized the voice was energy. So the source of power is energy. That's why our life force energy is part of it. That's where the 144,000 points of light come from. It's what energy are you part of that make the whole. So once you find your energy, all of a sudden you start understanding a lot of things you never understood before because now you're in tune with things. That's why it's so important for people to understand they have to become indigenous before they can find their pathway. Like I said, indigenous only means you become a real person of the earth. You become connected to your life force energy, or as I say, connection to your chi.
Okay, just to kind of wrap that little bit up, we've got about 8 minutes left, I think. Can you still be, for example, a Christian and Indigenous? Can you be a Hindu and Indigenous?
Well, Christianity, again, and all religions of the world were based on indigenous beliefs.
No, but what I'm saying is, we're not, I don't want to talk about the history of where all faiths and beliefs come from. What I'm saying is, in a modern day setting, if somebody's listening, they're, Catholic or they're Hindu, Sikh, Muslim, can they still practice their faith, their prayers, and all that, and be indigenous then?
You know, it's funny you would ask that question because I had a flashback. I was talking to my mom, and my mom said, "You know, I never understood your dad and his connection because he was always into the indigenous way." She said, "But I'm a strong Catholic." He said, and she said, "Am I going to be saved?" And I said, "Mom, it depends on your belief system. Doesn't make a difference whether you're Catholic, whether you're Protestant, Lutheran, or whatever religion you belong to. If you walk it with your heart, you have nothing to worry about."
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of getting at. So it's not that somebody has to give up their religion to follow what you're teaching. They can still b- go to church, go to the synagogue, go to the mosque, go to temple, and do what they normally do, as long as it's coming from a place of the heart, and you know, bring what you're teaching into their life as well. Then,
Yeah, well, that's what the Pope has been saying too. If you're going to follow the teachers of Jesus Christ, he said, "Where's your humanity? Where's your love for people who don't have something?" Instead, you utilize the religious term in order for you to do evil.
well, some do, but there are obviously plenty of people in all the faiths that do good stuff as well. It's not like everybody who's Christian is like the nutters that you've got in some of your southern churches that, are always picking and choosing which bits of the Old Testament they want to use against people.
Yeah, it's the whole idea is that you can be Christian as long as you follow the pathway that was given to you. You know, you don't have to worry about it. But it seems like Christianity or other religions they utilize it as a sword. But there are a lot of people out there who basically walk the right pathway, no matter what religion they belong to, they still walk that pathway. Uh, Even the Jesuits, when they finally realized and understood the indigenous people, all the land that they owned, they started giving back to the indigenous people.
Did they?
Yeah, on our reservation, they had a center. They had all of what they would call like convict, religious, whatever, and they owned a lot of land. And about 10, 15 years ago, they turned all their belongings, their center, the land, everything back to the Ojibwa people in Turtle Mountain.
That's what we're up against, though, isn't it? There's the good people on the planet,
Oh, yeah.
but then there's the greedy, narcissist, ego types, and unfortunately, they seem to rise to the top and get the positions of power. How do we get people that come from the heart into positions of power then? And you're gonna have to be quick on that because we've only got a couple of minutes left.
Yeah. Well, the whole idea, too, why do all these people go out and they feed the people? Because they have a good heart and they want to do things. They don't do it under the name, oh, I'm a Catholic, so I'm going to give you all this thing. They go there because of their heart. So they belong to the belief system that they help other people who can't be helped.
I don't think you heard my question there, though. How do we get people like that into the positions of power to make the positive changes in the world?
We fix the hoop.
Okay.
Once we fix the hoop, the power is regenerated. It's just like you can have an engine, but within that engine, you have to have parts. Otherwise, it doesn't run. But once you get the parts and you build the engine, when you start it, boom, it goes. So the sacred hoop is like a starting point. And once enough people get there, you can start it because now you can utilize energy. You can utilize the energy that is there within the earth, above the earth, and upon the earth to start utilize that power to change things.
Thanks for listening to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. If you'd like to ask Wa-Na-Nee-Che a question, you can email me at stuart@realityresponsibility.com. The link will be in the description. And don't forget, you can download a powerful guided meditation for free at humancircleoflife.com.